Okay, so welcome back to the kitchen. This is episode 4 of our series about planning and for preseason. This is going to be focused on a games versus drills approach, and then how best to, how to use your imagination and how to construct um, games or drills or activities that are going to be keep your team being continuously engaged and just new fresh ideas. So we're not reliant upon the same 2, 3 exercises all of the time. So yeah, I have just a presentation that I gave before. When I was doing some training and development. We're going to run through that. And then I am going to run through the thought process behind how to use the body mechanics of the outcome of what you're trying to achieve to design the new games or drills or activities. So we'll get started. So this is just a like a presentation that I gave when I was doing some national training and development. And the basis is the learning environments, focused on games over drills. Um, and I wanted to, like, the first question I'd always ask is, what do learning environments look like? And this is a video, I won't bother showing it to you, but it's a man in a clown costume on a skateboard, and he's there for about 15 to 16 minutes trying to perfect a skill. Now, is this a learning environment? There's no coach, there's no direct instruction, there's no parameters or guidelines about how he best does this. It's simply just a man in a clown costume experimenting. So, is that a learning environment? I mean, I'd wager it is, because by the end of it, he gets the tricks down, he's all very happy and stuff like that. But through experimentation and self-realization, he is able to learn. So, how do learning environments, or how does this man in the clown costume relate to rugby? And then we go back to Eddie Jones. So, Eddie Jones says this, that the saying, practice made perfect, is untrue when it comes to preparing for a match. A game of rugby is chaotic, not structured. You have to be able to react, make decisions, and work out where you went wrong. The old way of training was nice and slow, everything done methodically, but that is finished now, because rugby is not like that anymore. I mean, as I've said numerous times, rugby is an invasion sport. It's a chaos game. We have to be able to understand chaos. We have to be able to thrive in chaos. And that's how we grow and develop, through these chaos games and through the chaotic nature of the transitional play, for instance, that I spoke of previously. So, how do we create better learning environments? What do these look like? So, what does a games-based approach offer? If you want, you can pause it for a second here and have a think about it. So just think, like, games-based versus drill-based. Um, how many decisions are made? What does the body mechanics look like? This kind of stuff. So I'll give you guys just like 30 seconds or so if you want. So hopefully you had some ideas. Um, Games-based approach offers competition, because you're always competing against somebody. It's not just a one rep drill. It's you versus someone else, or it's a team versus team. And it gives game specific problem solving, like the transitions and the turnovers. You can't really coach turnover play through drills, because we need to put constraints in. We need to look at the number of people on their feet type thing. And it does personal analysis and peer review. Decision making. It's all based around decision making. If we're working off of a one rep for a pass, then we don't actually know if the right decision was made at the time. We've just executed it's like a golf swing. It's like I like to describe. You have people, they'll do a kick or a pass, and then they'll stand there and they'll look at it. If you want to watch the ball in the air, go play golf. We need to be more hands-on with that, and understanding our decision making. And it offers creative and innovative coaching. So this is what I find is exciting for most coaches, is you get to experiment, you get to try new things, you get to see what works and what doesn't work, and you also get to develop as a coach, through adversity. Let's just take the Cowboys for this season. I think probably the best thing that's going to come out of the Cowboys this season is Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator, because he's lost his quarterback, he's lost his offensive line. So now he's actually going to have to work really hard on his coaching and understanding how to beat defenses. So it's going to be a great learning opportunity for him this year, despite the fact that they are truly awful. And again, athletes under pressure. The more games we do, the higher the tempo and the more pressure there is, the more decisions we have to make. The more our decisions matter. If we're doing a one catch pass drill and we drop the ball, well, then you're going to get another rep. If you're doing it in a game, then it might equate to a turnover, it might equate to a try. You might lose the game. So that's the pressure that it builds. And again, you're generally more fatigued through games-based approach versus a drills-based approach. So these are the elements that I have here. So you have games on the left and drills on the right. And again, I'll give you if you can pause it here and look at the screen. And what I want you to do is to think about which offers more. So what is more peer-driven? And your feedback loops. Is it a games-based approach or is it a drill-based approach? Your coaching time. What actually requires more coaching time? Okay. So just run down through the list and just think to yourself, which is more beneficial. Okay. So here's the peer-driven elements. It's very high-driven. There's not much coaching time required for games-based. Decision-making is player-based. The rest are all high, and it's general, like general tactical development, your player motivation, and it's more fun versus drills-based. So you can just see the difference between the two different types there. So what does this look like in rugby? And again, I'm not going to show you the videos, but you can find these on the internet quite quickly. This is just like Fiji touch. There's Ben Ryan, and they were working on offloads, and it was 4v2 defenders, 360-degree multi-directional game. And again, instead of just standing there going one-on-one with the offloads, they're all just throwing the ball around, and then they're getting their body mechanics, they're getting the support lines, and it was good. This is another good game I saw. Again, it's called Traffic Light or Traffic Stop, and it's a footwork evasion game where they're in a small grid. You have to run around, you have to avoid, and if you bumped into someone, a traffic accident occurred, like a wreck occurred, and then you'd have to go on the ground, you'd have to lay down, you had to place the ball, and then someone without a ball would then take the ball from you, and then they would become the vehicles moving through. It was like Bangkok Traffic Jam or something it was called. And then you can put some constraints in where they put like a group of 3 or 4 people in, and that become like an 18-wheeler. So it was much harder for them to change direction. They caused a lot more damage. And again, these are just games where you can work on footwork and evasion. A great one for kids, especially if you're trying to get like younger girls involved, like around the 10 to 12-year-old age bracket. They're not big on contact, and you can't really teach them the tackle technique. So a good game to do is like sock wrestling, or let's say you're on a soft surface. You have them have a competition. Who can take the most shoes off another player, and that wins at the end of the time limit. And then that teaches the body mechanics of the tackling, because they have to go low, they have to wrap up, they have to get used to using their strength to actually get the shoes off or socks off, whatever. Just simple things like that. It's a circle in the middle of the field, and then try and take someone's shoe off. This is a good games-based approach to have. So now what I wanted to do is to talk about how to create games. And the best way I can describe this is if we're learning, we're going to start with this. So we had 3 different groups. We had the ages, the number of players, and then the skill that you want to work on. So again, I was the director of a multi-age group organization. So we started at 6. So you have the age brackets from 6 to 10 years old, 10 to 14, 14 to 18, and then seniors. And then the number of players, because everything is different. Some teams might have a lot of players, some teams might not have that many. So again, there's the amount of players you have, and then the skill. These are just the 4 basic skills that we were working on that month. It was run, catch, pass, tackle technique, kicking, and then breakdown skills. And now you can substitute anything you want in for this, but it's just about to get you thinking into that creative process. And what I did is I had the coaches. They basically had a dice, and then they would number off whatever the numbers on the dice equated to. They'd roll it, and then that would be their age bracket. So let's say it was, 10 to 14 years old. They had 15 to 25 players, and then they had to work on run, catch, and pass skills. And they had to come up with a new game. And always challenge yourself to come up with something new, especially when you're in this experimental phase. Um, and it's just a good way of randomizing it, because too often I find they're like, oh, I'm going to create a game, but you're not really creating a game. It's a game that you know, and it's a game that you have in your back pocket, and it'll work for sure. It'll work. But we're trying to stimulate the creativity, and we're trying to get people thinking here. So just if you do find yourself, let's say you have an hour free on a Sunday or something like that, just map out the grid like this. Um, Use a dice and roll it, and then see what happens. And just spend kind of like 5 minutes on each game. Oh, what would that look like? What would the parameters be? How big would the field be? What would some of the constraints be? How many players would it need that to be effective? And then the magic number. If you guys learn one thing from me over these 10 weeks, it's about repetition. And the magic number for me is the number of reps that you can do per minute. And always aim for an athlete to be involved every 10 seconds. So 10 seconds is a huge number. So that gives you 6 reps a minute. And let's say you're practicing um, for 90 minutes. 90 minutes, but you have to warm up and stuff like that. The amount of reps you're going to get in versus if you're only getting 1 rep per 60 seconds or 1 rep per 120 seconds. And the more reps our players and athletes get in, the better they're going to be. And again, it's exponential, and it will grow over the course of the entire season. So if you just think about it, like it might only sound like, oh, I'm only getting in an extra 5 reps a minute, but over 6 months, that's going to be a huge benefit to the team. So again, try and focus on that 10 seconds rep. And a great thing to do as a coach is with your watch or your stopwatch or your phone is just pick a player when you're going through an exercise. Pick a player and then just count how long it takes between reps for him or her to get the ball. If you're averaging 14 to 15 seconds, I mean, we can work with that. But if they're going to be standing around for 2 minutes, then it's not beneficial to you as a coach, and it's not beneficial to them as the athlete. So what you want to do is we want to look at our drills, look at our games, and look to modify them based on the number of reps a minute. And again, this is just something that if it doesn't look like rugby, feel like rugby, or sound like rugby, then it's not rugby. How can we develop games using the outcomes or the body mechanics? That's what we're going to look at now. The best way I can describe it is we have to look at the base movements of the activity. And from the movements, then we can actually start to create. So as an example, I was given an outcome during the summer when I was working with some sevens. We wanted to work on realignment in attack. So what that looks like to me is the realignment is the first thing for realignment. I imagined that somebody has taken it into contact. Our attackers have gone forward. We've had to come backwards to get realigned, and then perhaps shift across. So that would be the step-by-step of realignment in that instance. So what we did is we put a game together whereby we had 10 meters apart. It was like 4-on-3 or 3-on-2. You can even go to 5-on-4. You are marked up in front of a defender. On go, you run forward, you slap their hands, and then you backpedal. And then you really have to work on the alignment, and you hit your 5-meter mark or 6-meter mark, whatever the mark you want to be, and then the ball comes in, and then we play from that. So it's a simple one-phase touch game. You can even do 2 phases if you like. You can alter the number of defenders. You can make it 5-on-2. You can go 4-on-3, 5-on-5. But the principle of the game was just getting used to coming forward, stopping, and then backpedaling to get the realignment that we like. And then you as the coach, or you have your number 9, controls when the ball comes in. So sometimes you'll have to be like a bigger realignment where you have to get set, you have more time for that. Other times it would come in a little bit quicker than that, and you just need to fire. And that's the thing, it all worked around the basis of what does the steps that you would have to take to realign look like. So that's one example, and that's what I mean. What does an offload look like? We all understand you've got your chicken wing offload, or you've got the round the back offload, but let's just say, let's just take the round the back offload, and the body mechanics of that is, well, we have to be bigger. We have to create separation. So how do you develop a game which focuses on separation while still working on offloads? And again, just a simple thing for that is you do I'm sure we've all seen that 10 ball or 10 passes in a small grid. But what you can do is that, let's say you have to extend the arm. You have to extend the arm. The defenders are able to push the attackers out of the grid unless the defender extends their arm, grabs like a weak shoulder or something like that from the defender, and then that should free them up to have space to make the offload to the left or to the right. They can manipulate the body of the defender. They can pull the defender forward. They can offload in behind them. And again, another simple thing, from an intrinsic educational point of view, I found it was not as successful as I would have liked, but it did work. Is if you get like dog squeaky toys. I don't have any here, but if you get a dog squeaky toy and some big safety pins, and then if you pin the squeaky toy here, and if you're trying to work on that stiff arm or separation, that every time someone stiff arms and the squeaky toy squeaks, then they get to go forward 5 meters without having to stop in a touch game. So that's just a simple, like, it's intrinsic educational thing. But so everything starts with, like I've said, everything starts with the body mechanics. What does that look like? And then from there we have the processes. So we leave the outcome to the end. So we start with body mechanics, then we go on the process. Are we looking to work on wide and flat passes? So how can we do a game where we can have wide and flat passes? Well, something to do is that you bring the defenders in. So you create some channels, let's say 15 meters either side of the pitch, and then the defenders cannot go into the channel until the ball crosses the line, and then they're released. And what that does is that will stimulate the imagination. It will invite the attackers to fire the ball across the defensive line, so that the attackers or the attacking wing or whoever's in the wide channel is catching the ball as flat and as quickly as possible to give yourself the big advantage to get down this open channel. Versus if they pass the ball back 5-6 meters, then it's easy for the defenders to launch into the channel and to go from there. So that'd be the what you'd start with. That's the process, and then from the process becomes the outcome. So it's quite simple. Just to recap, think about the body movements, think about the process of what you're trying to achieve, and then the outcomes will naturally flow. And I'm going to tell you this now, sometimes it's not going to work. Sometimes it's going to be awful, and your athletes will be standing around, and even you as the coach will be standing there going, well, that was bloody terrible. And it's just, you just have to forget it and move on, or you can tweak it. You can tweak the margins, you can tweak the size of the game, you can tweak the constraints, if you have a good game that you think will work. Like something I did, I think it took me like 4 or 5 goes to get it right, is we trained on one of those multi-purpose fields where it has the soccer center circle. And I had an idea for a defensive positioning game. And what I did is I started with the attackers inside the circle and then defenders outside. And then defenders couldn't move into the circle, and attackers have to score by dotting the ball down on the line, but they can't get touched. And it just wasn't working, but I wanted the lateral shift, and I wanted the lateral communication. So what I ended up doing is I actually flipped it. So if you put your defenders inside the circle, the attackers are on the outside. Every time an attacker gets touched with the ball, they have to drop the ball and then run 20 meters to the sideline or whatever it is. And what it naturally does is your defenders are almost kind of blind. So they can't really see two people to the left or two people to the right due to the curve of the circle. So what it gets is it gets this beautiful like lateral shift of defense and communication where one person is picking up the threat and then everyone has to move. Because if one person goes by themselves, it leaves a big gap. And then defenders can just so the attackers can just dot the ball down and score. So again, this is a great game, and it was working on just lateral communication. And from the basis of looking at the body movements, looking at the process that I wanted to work on communication and trust, and I came up with this. And that's what you have to do. You have to experiment. Sometimes it's going to be easy, sometimes it's not. I hope that that helps. I guess that's me for this series. I'm sure you're fed up with me. Um, so yeah, to recap, most important thing is count the number of reps per minute. 10 seconds. That should be the goal. Aim for your athletes to get the ball or to make a decision every 10 seconds. And if it's longer than that, you need to work towards that time. Just yourself, even if you just do a simple math problem, let's say you're getting it every 30 seconds, just count out 1 rep every 30 seconds over 80 minutes by twice a week or 3 times a week, and then multiply that by a month or 3 months, whatever. And you'll see the exponential difference. So 10 seconds, I cannot stress that enough. And when you're creating games, look at the body movements first, the process of what you're trying to achieve, and then the outcomes will follow. So yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed this. I hope it's been beneficial. I'm going to take some time off. You won't be seeing me for a while. We're going to come back with another one of our coaches roundtables. We started working on the group that we're going to have on that. I think that'll be in a couple of weeks' time. But if there's any questions, I'm always happy to answer them. I'm always happy to start discussions. So if you have anything, just let me know.